ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादां सह गणललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। गुरवे गौरचंद्राय राधिकाय तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्ण भक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः। मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं कृष्ण चैतन्य ईश्वरं। नाराधितं कलियुगे तव पादपद्मं नालोकितः कलियुगे तव गौरदेहः, नाकर्णिता कलियुगे तव तत्वगाथा चैतन्य चंद्र भवता परिवंचितोहम्। Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to another session on the Gajendra Moksha Katha. This is session 41 on our ongoing series in the study of the 8th canto Srimad Bhagavatam. Now we are at the 4th chapter entitled Gajendra Returns to the Spiritual World, and we were reading text 11 and 12. Just a quick rewind to what we have been doing, and then we will get to what we are doing. We discussed in this chapter the past life of the crocodile. We mentioned how crocodile was Gandharva Huhu, who was liberated by the Supreme Lord from that position, and he was given a Gandharva body back to Huhu, and he was given the Gandharva Loka, while Gajendra was taken back home, back to Godhead, to Vaikuntha in a spiritual form, in a form of a Vishnu Duta. So the crocodile was given Gandharva body and Gajendra was given Vishnu Duta body. And we were discussing how Huhu, the Gandharva, was happy and grateful to get this Gandharva body. He did not have the thirst to go back to Vaikuntha in a spiritual form like that of Gajendra. Gajendra had thirst. He had very deep yearning to go back in a spiritual form. So till the time we don't have that deep desire, Krishna will not give us. Therefore, Bhaktivinoda Thakur named the song Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari as Siddhi Lalasa. Siddhi means perfection and Lalasa means deep hankering. Till the time we don't have a deep hankering to get Krishna, Krishna will not give himself. So very good question. Who gets Krishna? And a very good answer. He who wants Krishna gets Krishna. Krishna does not give himself to someone who sincerely does not want him. We want things from Krishna, or we want Krishna to solve our material temporary problems. Amarendra Prabhu would call them as the chapati problems, the temporary problems of this world. It's almost like we want to use a brahmastra to be free from a mosquito bite. Mosquito bite are the problems of this world, and brahmastra is the name of Sri Hari. So that brahmastra can actually give us love of Godhead, can give us Krishna and deep love for Krishna, can give us our spiritual form, can give us our eternal service in the groves of Vrindavan, at the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna. But we use that holy name to solve our temporary problems. It's like someone who's in a deep dark well and he's crying out for help, and there's a person who throws in a ladder. Holding that ladder, climbing onto the ranks of that ladder, he can come out. But this man who's sitting inside, he's feeling so cold in that deep dark well that he is, because it's a dry well, it's a dark well, deep well, he's feeling so cold that he decides to cut the different legs of the ladder and put through a bonfire in the base of that well and feel the warmth. Now what happens? The more he cuts the ladder gets shorter, and he's using the ranks of the ladder to solve his temporary problem in the well. He who can actually run on the ranks of the ladder and come out of the well and forever feel safe and feel the warmth, he is busy cutting the different legs of the ladder, the ranks of the ladder, to make bonfire inside the well so that he can feel warmth. So this is foolishness, because what's happening is the ultimate benefit of that ladder is to get out of the well and not to use it for feeling warmth amidst the shivering cold in the base of that well. So similarly, Krishna Bhakti is meant to ultimately invoke love for Krishna in a spiritual form. When we see Krishna and we also have a spiritual form, we can serve him endless, forever, without any personal agenda. And in that way, the more we keep Radha and Krishna happy, the more we are happy. When we see Radha and Krishna smile at us, we naturally feel happy. We are made, we are designed, we are manifested in this world only for their pleasure. So the more we keep them happy, the more the equipment aligns with the intention of the manufacturer. To that extent, the equipment is working well. To the extent, and at the point when the equipment starts working independent of the design and the thought process of the intelligent manufacturer, to that extent, we understand the equipment is spoiled. So when we serve Radha and Krishna, we are aligning to the intention of the manufacturer of our existence, that is Radha and Krishna. And to the extent we work independently for ourselves, to that extent our consciousness is corrupted. In the spiritual world, when Radharani and Sri Krishna, along with all the Sakhis and the Gopis and the Manjaris in the groves of Vrindavan, are having very sweet pastimes, and we get a chance to serve in those groves of Vrindavan the beautiful, wonderful leaves and fruits and flowers and creepers and trees and fragrant flowers and tasty fruits and aromatic groves. And these groves are decorated with different colorful birds and nice, attractive, favorable to that pastime birds and animals, making different songs, singing different songs and having different graceful dance steps. And there are different rangolis made at different places. The grass is very soft and the dust of Vrindavan is very soft. And there is very sweet breeze blowing. The breeze is blowing slowly, carrying the aromatic fragrance, the scented offerings of different flowers or different forests into the nostrils of Radha and Krishna. And these blowing of the wind is very, not just slow and aromatic, but it's also cold. Also, there are drizzles from the sky, causing dewdrops in the leaves of the trees of Vrindavan. At the same time, the seasons are set according to the desire of Radha and Krishna, very, very favorable to that pastime. And there are very beautiful swing pastimes, and there are very beautiful boat festival pastimes, and there are very beautiful pastimes where Radha and Krishna are playing dice together in Radha Kund. And sometimes they're also having other beautiful sport pastimes where Radharani's camp and Krishna's camp, they are challenging each other. Radharani and her gopis are walking through the narrow valleys of Vrindavan. They're called Sankhari Khor. Sankhari Khor means the place, the valley between two mountains, which is very narrow, that only one person can pass. and all the gopis headed by Radharani, they are carrying pots of yogurt and milk and buttermilk and all of these things, and Krishna standing there with a stick, acting as if he's the tax collector, and he's asking for tax, and he wants a pot full of buttermilk, and he wants a pot full of yogurt and butter and ghee. And it's only a matter of time that Lalita Sakhi comes ahead and she rips the artificial mustache that has been stuck to Krishna's face, and she reveals to everyone with a big thunderous split of laughter that this is not some king, this is actually the son of the king of Vrindavan. This is Nandanandan Sri Krishna, and Krishna feels very embarrassed. We are actually meant to be in these pastimes and serve the divine couple very favorably. We want to be like salt, where we are adding service and adding flavor to the pastime through our personal selfless service. Yet at the same time, like salt, we remain invisible. And when we do that, and we are assisting our spiritual masters also in the divine form, we all have a material body in this world, and as soul, we have a spiritual body. It's called as Swarup, the eternal form. Swarup, Swa means own and Rup means form, our spiritual forms. So all of us with our spiritual masters, and the spiritual master with his spiritual master, and spiritual master with his spiritual master. So all the Parampara Acharyas in the Gaudiya Parampara, they are all in their forms as maidservants of Radha and Krishna, and we are simply assisting our spiritual master in those groves because we have no independent identity. Even when we go into the spiritual world and we get liberated, Radharani is almost asking us, so who are you, and who's this? And then when we say that, oh, I'm actually under the shade of the shelter of so-and-so Manjari or so-and-so Gopi, who's actually our spiritual master, oh, then Radharani recognizes, and then she gives us service. So when we have desire that, when will that day be mine, that I will forget who I am in this material world, and I will be completely absorbed in my Siddha Deha, in my eternal, spiritual, ever-fulfilling spiritual form, where there is no more hunger and thirst and sleep and laziness and backache and stomachache and running nose and arthritis and lower back problem and passing stool and urine and mucus and blood and sweat. None of that in a spiritual form. There is no interruption to seva. 24 hours a day we are serving Radha and Krishna selflessly. So when will that day be mine? When we desire that and also sincerely work hard under the instruction of our spiritual master, and when our spiritual master, by his causeless mercy and the holy name by his causeless mercy, they feel that we not just desire, but we also deserve. Because it's important to deserve. Just desiring and not working towards that is incomplete. But however, on the other hand, if we deserve, automatically that desire to get Krishna will appear. So many times in Hare Katha we are told that, oh, this place is a very miserable place and therefore we want to go back home, back to Godhead. Well, that is very wonderful. That is certainly very good. But that's 25% why we want to go back to Krishna, because this world is miserable. But the remaining 75% why we want to go to Krishna is because Krishna's world, Krishna's form, Krishna's name, Krishna's qualities, Krishna's pastimes, Krishna's abode, Krishna's paraphernalia, his associates, Krishna's seva, all of this is very attractive. So we don't want to go to Krishna because we want a relocation from this place. We want to leave this place. It's a miserable dukkale mashashvatam. Therefore, we want to go back home, back to God. That's 25% of the story. But the 75% of the story is we want to go there because of our attraction to Krishna. So we want to naturally revive that attraction in this human form. Animal form, we cannot do that. Bird form, we cannot do that. In fact, if you think about the earthworms on the grass in the garden, you think about the small birds which are staying in the in the nest formed on the branches of trees. We see that their life, why are they even living? What is the aim of their life? They are just living without a purpose. They're just eating every day, and they go to sleep at sunset, and then they wake up and they have to protect their babies because other birds may eat and try to attack. They have to protect their nest. and at the same time they make friendship with the opposite sex and continue making babies. And they sleep, they eat, they fight, they have some sense pleasure. That's all. And they live for a few years and they die. So even in the human form, if this is all that we are doing, ahara nidra bhayamaitunam cha samanyam etat pashubhi naranam dharmo hi tesham adhiko vishesho dharme nahi na pashubhi samana, then there is practically we are not meeting the expectation, the actual goal of this human form. This human form is to search out what is there beyond the sky. How can I find Krishna? What is the fastest way that I can go to Krishna? What method must I employ? In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, very beautifully, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explains, Krishna Sambandha Bhakti Abhideya Prema Prayojan, that our relationship is only with Krishna. And to get there, we have to perform bhakti. And what we aim to achieve out of bhakti is prema. Niswartha prema, selfless love for Krishna, affection for Krishna. So that is the whole purpose of our human life. When will that day come that I can give up all material attachments? Even Nityananda Prabhu, our Narottam Das Thakur is praying, Ara kabe nitai chande karuna hoibe, samsara vasana mora kabe tuchha hoibe, vishaya chhadiye kabe shuddha habe man, kabe hama herabo Shri Vrindavan, rupa raghunatha pade hoibe akuti, kabe hama bhuja pose jugal piriti, rupa raghunatha pada rahu mora ash, prarthana karoe sada Narottama Das. Narottam Das Thakur has sung that Ara kabe nitai chander karuna hoibe. When will that day come when my Nityananda Prabhu, Amar Dayal Nitai, will shower mercy on me? When will that day come when Nitai will shower mercy on me? He will have some kindness on me. Ara kabe nitai chande karuna hoibe. When he showers mercy on me, samsara vasana mora kabe tuchha hoibe. Naturally my desires to serve my senses will go away. And when that happens, Vishaya Chadiya Kave Shuddha Habe Man. When will I give up all sense pleasure? And when will my mind become pure? Kabe Hama Herabo Shri Vrindavan. And then I will be able to see Vrindavan with my eyes. This will all happen only by the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu. Prematurely, we cannot get Radha Krishna without Nityananda. It is not possible. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, Nityananda Gosaira Pathaila Gauda Deshe, Teho Gauda Desha Boshaila Prema Rase, Sahaje Nityananda Krishna Premodhama, Prema Prabhu Ajnaya Kaila Jaha Taha Prema Dana, Tahara Charane Mora Koti Namaskar, Chaitanya Bhakti Jeho Loyala Samsar, Chaitanya Gosai Yara Bole Bada Bhai, Teho Kahe Mora Prabhu Chaitanya Gosai, यद्यपि आपन है प्रभु बलराम तथापि चैतन्य करे दास अभिमान चैतन्य सेवा चैतन्य गाओ लव चैतन्य नाम चैतन्य जे भक्ति करे सेई मोर प्राण ए मत लोके चैतन्य भक्ति लवय यैला दीनहीन निंदक सबारा निस्तरिला. Very, very beautiful in the Madhya Lila Kaviraj Goswami explains that Nityananda Prabhu, Nityananda Gosainere Pathaila Gauda Deshe, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he sent Nityananda Prabhu to Gauda Desh, to Navadvip, Teho Gauda Desha Bashaila Prema Rase, then he flooded Navadvip, Gauda Desh with Prema Ras. And Sahaja Nityananda Krishna Prema Uddham. Naturally by Sahaja, by nature, Nityananda Prabhu is Prema Uddham, Krishna Prema Uddham. He is naturally inspired for transcendental service. And Prabhu Ajnaya Kaila Jaha Taha Premadan. And by the instruction of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nitai takes it as his responsibility to walk around and give love for Radha Krishna to everyone. And therefore Kaviraj Goswami says, Tahara Charane Mora Koti Namaskar. Therefore, millions and millions of times I offer my obeisances at the lotus feet of Nitai, Chaitanya Bhakti Jeho Lauya ila samsar. He who was kind enough. Mahaprabhu got prem to this world, but Nitai was actually the one who let Mahaprabhu taste that love of Godhead. but he took the service of distributing and spreading this love. Chaitanya Gosai jare bole bada bhai. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu calls Nitai as his older brother. Teho kahe mora Prabhu Chaitanya Gosai. Still Nitai never considers Mahaprabhu as his brother. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu calls Nityananda as his older brother. But Nitai always considers Mahaprabhu to be Mora Prabhu, my Lord. Yadyapi apani hoy Prabhu Balaram. Although Nityananda Prabhu is Balaram himself, he is the older brother. Tathapi Chaitanya kara dasa abhiman. Still he is always thinking that I am the servant of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, like we discussed yesterday, Chaitanya Seva, Chaitanya Gao, Love Chaitanya Nam. Nityananda Prabhu is walking around telling everyone, please serve Chaitanya, chant the names of Chaitanya, and sing the glories of Chaitanya. Chaitanya je bhakti kare sai mora pran. If someone worships Mahaprabhu, then they become the heart and soul of Nitai. Ei mata loke Chaitanya lo bhakti lao yaila. Dina hina nindaka sabara nistarila. So in this way, Nityananda Prabhu, he uplifted the fallen, the blaspheming criticizers, and everyone headed by Jagai and Madhai. So therefore, Narottam Das Thakur is saying, without Nityananda Prabhu, I can never get Radha and Krishna. Therefore, Gaur Leela is the entrance point to Krishna Leela. We can prematurely think, yes, when will I get Radha Krishna? It's good to think like that, but practically we will never enter unless we have the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu and Sriman Mahaprabhu. Nitayra Karuna Habe Braje Radha Krishna Pave. Nityananda, our Narottam Das Thakur has very, very beautifully sung that Nitayra Karuna Habe. If someone has mercy of Nityananda Prabhu, then Braje Radha Krishna Pave. Then they will have the mercy of Radha Krishna. Heno Nitai Bine Bhai Radha Krishna Paite Nai. If we don't have mercy of Nitai, then we will not get Radha Krishna. Impossible. Therefore, Narottam Das Thakur has sung very, very beautifully. Nitai na bolila mukhe majhilo samsara sukhe vidya kule ki kori betar. That Nitai na bolila mukhe, without saying the names of, chanting the names of Nityananda Prabhu, majhilo samsara sukhe, by being absorbed in the pleasure of this world, vidya kule ki kori betar. What can high learning and what can aristocratic birth do to such a person? Ahankare matta hoya nitai pada pashariya ashattera shatta kori mani narotama boda dukhe nitai more koro sukhe rakho ranga charanera pas. He has our Nitaira Charana Satya Tahara Sevaka Nitya Nitai Pado Sada Koro As Narotama Bada Dukhi Nitai More Koro Sukhi Rakho Ranga Charanera Pas. Narottam Das Thakur has very beautifully sung that because of ahankar, because of ego, that I can get Radha Krishna without Nitai Chaitanya. Ahankare matta hoya, the living entity becomes mad. And Nitai Pada Pashariya, he puts Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu's lotus feet to the side. Ashattera Shatya Korimani. And he considers false in this world to be truth and truth to be false. What is truth? Nitaira Charana Satya. Tahara Sevaka Nitya. Only Nityananda Prabhu is truth. And his servants are eternal. Narottama Bada Dukhi. Narottam Das Thakur says, hey Nitai, I am very, very dukhi. I am very poverty stricken. I don't have prem. I am suffering in this world. Nitai more karo sukhi. Hey Nitai, please make me happy. How? Rakho ranga charane ropas. By keeping me close to your lotus feet. So therefore it is good to have desire, siddhi lalasa. But at the same time the desire combines with the deserving nature by the shelter of Nitai and Chaitanya. There is no way out. Our acharyas have very, very beautifully glorified that without Nitai and Chaitanya, we have no other way out in Kali Yuga. They are Parama Karuna Pahu Dui Jana Nitai Gaura Chandra Sab Avatara Shara Shiromani Keval Ananda Kanda Bhajo Bhajo Bai Chaitanya Nitai Emana Dayala Data Pashu Pakhi Jure Pashana Vidhare Shuni Jar Guna Gatha Dekho re bhai tribhuvane nae emona dayala data. How beautifully he has sung. Lochan Das Thakur has sung that Chaitanya and Nityananda are the most merciful. They are the essence of all they are the sweet essence of all incarnations. And therefore, Tribhu Vanenai, in the three worlds, upper, middle and lower, Emana Dayala Data, there is no one as merciful as Chaitanya Nityananda. Therefore, Bhajo Bhajo Bhai, Tribhu Vanenai, in these three worlds, there is no one so merciful. Bhajo Bhajo Bhai Chaitanya Nitai. Sudrida Vishwasa Kori. Vishaya Chadiya, Serase Majiya, Mukhe Bolo Hari Hari. Make very firm conviction in your heart about Gaur Nitai and worship them and chant the names of Hari Hari. So in this way, we are discussing all this to make this point that it is very, very important to have desires. Sometimes we are told that no, you don't have these desires. No, when we can have desires that I want to buy a big flat screen TV and I want to have a bigger house and I want to have a bigger car, when those desires are okay, why not have this desire that when will that day be mine? When I will actually cross anartha nivriti, when I will actually get some taste in spiritual life, when I will actually serve the Vaishnavas sincerely for their pleasure without getting anything from them, without having any desire to get anything from them. When will I study Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita and tears will roll down my eyes as I remember the Supreme Lord? When will that day come when I can live in an ashram with the service of my Gurudev, where I can serve him day and night like a dog without asking anything apart from that, personally for myself. Whenever he tells me to eat, I will eat. But I don't want to live anything. I don't want to live and dream and eat and sleep independent of the instruction of my Gurudev. When will that day come where Krishna and Guru's desire is my desire? I don't pray to Krishna to fulfill my desire, but in his desire gets mixed my desire. Therefore, there's no need to pray to Krishna for some personal benefit. We just pray to Krishna that may I never forget you. May I always be in touch with you. May I always remember you. So we have to deserve and we must desire, but at the same time deserve. And that deserving nature will come only by worshipping Gaur Nitai. We have to chant the names of Gaur Nitai. We have to chant the names of Gaur Nitai. Srila Prabhupada had a very senior god brother who would come to Srila Prabhupada's house. When Srila Prabhupada was a grihastha, he was a sannyasi, and he would come and he would give Hare Katha to Srila Prabhupada when Prabhupada was in his grihastha life. So that senior god brother of Prabhupada, whenever he would give class, he had this attachment to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu, that if he gives a class, as he is speaking, between his sentences, he would say, Gaur Hari Bol, Gaur Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Sometimes he would say, Dayal Nitai Chaitanya, Dayal Nitai Chaitanya, Dayal Nitai Chaitanya. Oh merciful Nitai Chaitanya, oh merciful Gaur Nitai. And he would say, Amar Gaur Nitai, Amar Dayal Nitai, oh dear merciful Nitai, Raksha Karo, Raksha Karo, Rakha Karo, Rakha Karo. Please protect me, please protect me. So he would be speaking Hari Katha. And between his sentences, sometimes as he is taking time to think, he would say, Gaur Hari Bol, Nitai Chaitanya, Nitai Chaitanya. And someone asked the sadhu that why is it that that you chant the names of Gaur Nitai even in the middle of your classes while you're thinking and you're taking pauses between your sentences, you're saying their names. And very humbly he said that I am scared that whatever I'm speaking, if they are erroneous, if there are mistakes, may Chaitanya Nitai come in the form of their holy names and set it right, so that I am not making any mistakes. So he was so humble. So the point I'm making is he was taking so much shelter of Chaitanya Nitai. Even Srila Prabhupada, when he came to ISKCON Atlanta, he broke down looking at the deities of Gaur Nitai while singing Parama Karuna Pahudui Jana, that they are certainly the most merciful lords of Kali Yuga. And Prabhupada could not continue. He said, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is most merciful. Please take shelter of his lotus feet. So the point is, we were mentioning yesterday how Krishna can throw in twists in our life, but by taking shelter of Gaur Nitai, we will be in the right mood, in the right perspective. We can recognize those tests. They make us deserving. But however, Mahaprabhu, he is Patita Pavan, but he is not Kapata Pavan. He gives upliftment only on the condition that we should not have any illicit relation, and at the same time we should not commit Vaishnava Aparadha. These are the two main red flags for Sriman Mahaprabhu to stop giving mercy. If there is some criticism of Vaishnavas, or if there is some inappropriate behavior, intermixing behavior, then Mahaprabhu, he keeps his mercy with himself. He doesn't share it. So we should desire, but at the same time, we should also deserve. So all of this came from the point where Gajendra sincerely was desiring that may I get Krishna, may I get Vishnu, may I go back home, back to God, and may I have a spiritual form. He says, Adabradayo vimokshanam, my Lord, avyayam, give me a deha, of a body, avyayam, which is ever existing. That is an eternal form. Adabradayo vimokshanam, you can give that to me. So of course, who did not have that desire. He just wanted to be free and he wanted to become a Gandharva. So he did not develop enough hunger to go back home, back to Godhead. So he became a Gandharva and the Supreme Lord fulfilled his desire. So who was happy and grateful. He offered his obeisances and he went back to the Gandharva Loka. While Gajendra was crying and weeping to get a spiritual form and serve the Supreme Lord as an associate. Therefore the Supreme Lord, he accepted Gajendra, gave him a Vishnu Duta form. Vishnu Duta form means we look like Vishnu, but the power potency is not that of Vishnu. And in this way, we'll see in the chapter, the Supreme Lord, he keeps Gajendra in as a Vishnu Duta on back of the same Garuda, and both Vishnu and Gajendra in the form of a Vishnu Duta on the back of Garuda, they go back to Vaikuntha. So this is, we spent 30 minutes discussing this, that two people could be in the same situation. But depending on our inner calling, Krishna fulfills our desire uniquely. Prahlad Maharaj and Dhruva Maharaj both had the same spiritual master and both were of the same age. Both were performing the same process of bhakti. But Prahlad Maharaj went to the Vaikuntha planet in the spiritual world and Dhruva Maharaj went to the Vaikuntha planet in the material world, which is the Dhruva pole star. Why? Because Dhruva Maharaj came to the spiritual master Narada Muni with a specific desire in mind. And Prahlad Maharaj came to the spiritual master Narada Muni emptying his pot, not having any personal desire. Whatever Narada Muni wanted to fill in, Prahlad was ready to accept. So Dhruva Maharaj is teaching us by personal example that when we go to the spiritual master, we should not go with a personal agenda. This is why although both had the same spiritual master, the same young body and the same process of bhakti, one was insulted by the mother, the other was insulted by the father. They both had two different destinations. So our desires decide our destination. That's the 3D formula for spiritual life. Our desires decide our destination. Not just desiring, but when we act in accordance to that desire. Someone can sit on the couch and say, yes, I want to be a gopi in the spiritual world. But if our actions don't display the intensity of that inner desire, then Krishna does not take that desire of ours so seriously. When our actions represent in line with that desire, the intensity of our actions represent the same desire of our heart, then Krishna takes us seriously. So here we were mentioning how Shukdev Goswami describes Huhu's liberation or the crocodile's liberation to Huhu first and Gajendra's liberation to a Vishnu Duta next. And we mentioned how this is because the crocodile got liberated first because he was holding the lotus feet of Gajendra. This is why Prabhupada said, if you hold my dhoti, I will take you back home, back to Godhead. But that doesn't mean we hold on to Prabhupada's dhoti without any personal sadhana. Prabhupada once he moved his kurta cloth near his wrist and he showed the disciples that there was a mosquito sitting on his skin. And he said, this mosquito is having very close association, but it is not in the mood of hearing, but it is in the mood of sucking my blood. So sometimes we may hold on to the feet of a devotee, but if our desire is not to serve, then we may become a Gandharva like Huhu, but we will not go back home, back to Godhead. We should not hold the feet of Gajendra like the crocodile held. The spirit of holding is correct, that we must never let go of the feet of a pure Vaishnava in our life. But if it is in the mood that even if that pure devotee is bleeding, I am okay, then we may become a Gandharva and then we may fall back. But if we are holding the lotus feet of Gajendra, like the fishes in that pond, where they are humbly taking shelter of that feet, that fish may go back home, back to God. It's the intensity, it is the inner desire, it is the inner intention which matters, not just the action. One time Sripad Ramanujacharya, when he was honoring prasadam, he offered a piece of prasadam from his plate and a fish jumped from the pond and ate that and immediately became a four-handed Vishnuduta and went back home, back to Godhead. So Sripad Ramanujacharya's personal servants were shocked. They looked at this and they said, Sripad Ramanujacharya, oh Gurudev, we have eaten from your plate so many times, but we don't get our Vishnu Duta forms. But this fish is eating once and it has gone. And Sripad Ramanujacharya said, it all depends on our inner intense desire. You are taking the spiritual master for granted. Because it is available, so yeah, today if I don't take, I'll take it tomorrow. But the fish knows that this is once and for all opportunity. Ramanujacharya will not always come on the banks of the pond and sit and honor prasadam. So that intensity is what decides the destination. Then we went to the section where verse 7 to 12 describes the past life of Gajendra as King Indradyumna. And Shukdev Goswami describes Indradyumno iti khyato. Khyati means fame. So Gajendra in his past life was in Dravida Desh, which means South India, and he was a Pandya king. Pandya dynasty, like the Chola dynasty, Pandya dynasty. He was the king in the Pandya dynasty, and his name was Indradyumna. And iti khyati, khyata means he was very famous. He was almost as famous as Indra. And Shukdev Goswami says, Vishnu Bhakti Parayana. He was also very absorbed in the limbs of bhakti. He was a very noble king. He was not very passionate as a king. He was very noble, like King Kulashekara Alvar. They are all called Rajarishis. Rajarishi means those who are kings, but their heart is like that of a rishi. Also, Shukdev Goswami describes how he had matted hair, how King Indradyumna had matted hair, how he was very austere, very devoted to Hari, lived in seclusion. He lived in a place called the Kulachala Ashram, as Shukdev Goswami describes, and that is the present day. That place in South India is called Kutralam. Kutralam, very famous. It is there are famous waterfalls, and it takes almost one day to climb up and come down that place. Even now, there is a very famous temple of Agastya Rishi there in Kutralam, in South India. So that is the place where King Indradyumna, he was doing his bhajan and Agastya Muni came there. Shukdev Goswami describes how he would have ecstatic symptoms. And yesterday we were describing how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had such supreme ecstatic symptoms. And the ecstatic symptoms of King Indradyumna must definitely have been a small subset of that universal set of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstasy. Shukdev Goswami also describes Grihita Mauna Vrata, that King Indradyumna had kept Mauna Vrata. He would keep quiet. Actually, it's very difficult to keep quiet for everyone or anyone, especially for a king who's so used to speaking so many Rajasic matters in the assembly. Then what happens? Shukdev Goswami describes Yadrik Chaya. Somehow, by the inconceivable will of Sri Krishna, he who throws in twists and turns to bring in the best side in us. When I was in my 10th standard in Mumbai, I was part of a coaching class which would help us, would coach us for better academic performance. And they had this logo to bring out the best in you. They would give out bags that all the students must carry to that class, where you keep all your books and all of your academic things. And they would have this bag because they would have the class name, the coaching class would be publicized on the bag. So if the kids are wearing that bag and they're walking down the street everywhere, so people, onlookers will see, and that's a natural way of advertising, marketing your coaching center. So they had a logo, they had a slogan for their title, for their institute, and it said, to bring out the best in you. That is actually Krishna's quality. We bring out the worst in people. We touch those sensitive nerves that people start getting agitated. But Guru and Krishna exactly know how to bring out the best in us. So Yadrichaya, by the inconceivable desire of Krishna or by the inconceivable desire of Agastya Rishi, Shishya Ganaihi, he came, Agastya Muni, it is described. Agastya Muni has been described by the word Mahayasha, which means very glorious, very famous, very well respected. Samagamat Shishya Ganai Parishritaha. He came there along with his disciples. In those days, the spiritual masters would walk everywhere. They would go for Tirtha Yatra, moving from one place to another with their disciples. They would go everywhere. The disciples would follow the spiritual master and they would see how the spiritual master lives his life depending on the Supreme Lord. He sleeps wherever he gets placed. He eats whatever is being arranged. He is always absorbed. So they learn practically by living with the spiritual master, all the disciples. So, Samagamat Shishya Ganaihi, along with the Shishya, Agastya Muni came there. Although Agastya Muni is all the time described, or oftentimes we think that he is very heavy, like Durvasa Muni, people sometimes think that Agastya Muni is someone who he walks around giving curses. Like for example, we know Agastya Muni, he cursed Nahusha also to become a serpent. He cursed someone else to become a Brahma Rishi on a tree. So Agastya Muni even ended up drinking all the ocean water in one fine pastime. So in this way, Agastya Muni is sometimes taken to be someone who is very heavy in his approach. But it's interesting that before the curse, Shukdev Goswami introduces Agastya as Mahayasha, as the great respected one. And the interesting thing is, after the curse, in text 11, Shukdev Goswami uses the adjective Bhagavan. So before the curse, Shukdev Goswami uses the adjective Mahayasha for Agastya Muni as the very famous, greatly respected, celebrated, well-known Agastya. And after the curse, he calls him Bhagavan. Like the word Bhagavan can be used for Narada. In the 4th canto, Bhagavan term has been used for Narada Muni. Those who are as good as Vishnu are considered to be Bhagavan. So if Agastya Muni was cursing King Indradyumna because of uncontrolled anger or very passionate, erratic nature, Shukdev Goswami would not have introduced him as Mahayasha, nor would have had an adjective called Bhagavan after the curse. But this shows that Shukdev Goswami highly respected Agastya Muni and his decision. So here we see that King Indradyumna, although he was very good at deity worship and had ecstatic love for the deity, Agastya Muni somehow saw that King Indradyumna had some deficiency in his practice, and that was the etiquette, how to welcome Vaishnavas. Although he was good at deity worship, Agastya Muni saw this was his weak point. He was not somehow very vocal about his etiquette. Agastya Muni was expecting that King Indradyumna's practice, if it would have fructified, that would have shown, he would have exhibited that by personally coming forward, offering obeisances. Personally offering obeisances. One sannyasi in one class in ISKCON was mentioning that when he went to one temple, one devotee just looked at, one temple resident looked at the sannyasi and said, "Hey Maharaj, how are you doing? Vancha kalps." And the sannyasi said, "What do you mean Vancha kalps? Where is this Vancha kalps?" So he said, "Oh Maharaj, every time we offer obeisances, you have to bow down, you have to hit the floor, you have to get up. It's too much work because we have so many sannyasis, so they're visiting. So Vancha kalps means it's a modern way of offering obeisance." So the sannyasi was actually mentioning this in a class by saying how even etiquette in this world has become very degraded, even in the devotee community, that we are bringing in all these slogan terms to avoid the actual etiquette of offering obeisances, having sweet words, welcoming the superior, etc. But we are just bringing in shortcut obeisances. This was his revelation in one class. So ideally, it's always best to offer obeisances, welcome the great soul, give him a place to sit, wash his lotus feet. Especially Agastya Muni is walking through that forest. So it's best to maybe collect some berries and some fruits for him and fan him if he has got tired. Give him very fresh water and pots to drink. Speak some kind words, asking him where he's coming from, where he's heading, having some questions and answers about spiritual life. Then Agastya Muni would have probably offered his blessings so that King Indradyumna would have made advancement. But Agastya Muni saw this as anadara karanam, that this was the main reason of anadara. There was some disrespect there. Of course, King Indradyumna did not intend to. He was just by nature very quiet and not very vocal about his etiquette. But Agastya Muni saw this as a deficiency and hence decided to purify him quickly. So this is what the pure Vaishnavas always think of. For example, if we are sick and we need medicines, and let's say it takes about 10,000 rupees a month for our medicines, and we have to take those medicines for, let's say, 5 years. So 10,000 rupees a month means 12 months, so that's 1,20,000, and then 5 such years, so that's 6 lakh rupees for 5 years. If we are spending 10,000 rupees a month on medicines, we'll spend about 6 lakhs over 5 years. On the other hand, if a doctor comes and says, I will just perform this surgery and you will be okay, you don't have to take medicines, I will do the surgery in 2 lakhs. So instead of wasting 6 lakhs, I'll get it done in 2 lakhs. But the only thing is, it'll be a painful surgery. I will do it over 5 hours and it'll be a little painful. You will have a lot of pain after the surgery is performed. You will have some pain for some time. So this will be little painful, but in 5 hours it will be done and only 2 lakh rupees. So how many of us will prefer that over the first option? If we are ill, 10,000 rupees of medicines a month and 5 such years, it goes slow, no pain, just pop in the pills and it takes 5 years to cure. You're losing more money and more time. And on the other hand, just a surgery, it may be little painful, but in 5 hours, in 2 lakh rupees, so we save the money and we save time, but we have to pay little price. How many of us will be ready for that? So Agastya Muni was thinking of that option. Even Krishna always thinks of that option. The fastest way how I can bring this devotee back to my lotus feet. We see the present and we plan our future. Krishna sees our future and plans our present. So therefore, like sometimes you have this, the game, I'm not remembering the name of the game, a jigsaw puzzle. Yes, that's the name. In a jigsaw puzzle, you have different pieces. And you see from the box, when you throw them in, they're all scattered. And it takes some time. You have to take different pieces, assemble them. And then at the end, you see there's a picture formed. If the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle are placed in the proper place, a picture is formed. So that's what Krishna does. He takes different pieces of our life and he puts them together. And sometimes he takes one piece off and he takes another, replaces them, so that ultimately a beautiful picture comes up. So that is the mood of the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam always thinks about the fastest way we can be purified. Krishna thinks about the fastest way we can be purified. Pure devotees like Agastya always think about the fastest way we can get purified. His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj was once asked this question, that Maharaj, sometimes we see that we get criticized, we sometimes get chastised for things that we have not done. Sometimes we see that we have not done something and still we get criticized for such a thing. So how do we see that? So Srila Radhanath Maharaj said, yeah, sometimes we get criticized for things or chastised for things that we have not done, because in the past there have been cases where we have got glorification at instances where we did not deserve it. When we grab and hold on to glorification when we don't deserve it, now to balance it out, to nullify it, Krishna will give chastisement at times when we don't deserve it. That is Krishna's way of purifying us, said Srila Radhanath Maharaj. So sometimes we see that if we are in a room with another devotee and suddenly this other devotee, he had glass in his hand and it slips from his hand and falls down to the floor and cracks into pieces, and he suddenly runs away. And devotee from the neighboring room comes in and he sees this cracked glass pieces on the floor and we are the only one in the room. He may think that we have broken and he may start shouting that how many times should I tell you not to be careless. He may probably join some dots from the past and bring that here in this discussion and say, how many times should I tell you? You're always careless. Now you drop this glass. And we say, no, Prabhu, actually that other devotee. No, don't give excuses. You're always good at justifying and giving excuses. And we hear all of that when we have not done anything. We have not even touched that glass. So we will feel really upset and bad. But however, the Shastra describes, the more we read Shastra openly teaches us and resonates this principle that we should see that Krishna is mysteriously acting in those circumstances to purify us. There is no other explanation. There is no other better way to take it than that. Even in temples, sometimes we see that one department, in fact, in one temple that we personally were present, and we saw that one department, one devotee was supposed to do some service, but he had gone out of town. So another devotee had to be replaced. Now that devotee, due to some reasons, he just skipped his service. So the temple authority came and started shouting at some other devotee in that same department, saying, y'all are so reckless. You know the service is there. If that devotee is gone out of town, it's your duty to replace. And this devotee to whom he was shouting, he had just finished his service and he was coming. And he was listening. He said, Prabhu, why are you telling me? No, you should be more careful. You should replace by another devotee if you know that that devotee is not coming. So actually that devotee can think, somebody is going out of town, somebody is supposed to replace and he is forgotten or he is absorbed in something else. And this person should go and shout at him, either one or two, but why shout at me? I am not even involved. My only mistake is I am part of the same department. Sometimes it happens. Or sometimes we see that the husband gets some shouting at the office and he comes home and he downloads that mercy on his wife. You see, the wife may think, what have I done? Not that the husband should take this as liberty and saying that Krishna is using me as an instrument to purify you. That's not how we should think. The facilitators of these actions should be very careful that we don't incur karma by behaving like this. But when we are on the receiving end, definitely we should see it as Krishna trying his bit through circumstances to speed up our advancement. So Agastya Muni saw that King Indradyumna, he had learnt everything perfectly. But the only thing he lacked from Agastya Muni's perspective was some etiquette. And to learn that Vaishnava etiquette and to perfect that etiquette, it would have taken many, many births for King Indradyumna. But it was Agastya Muni's mercy that he cursed him to become an elephant, one life. And at the end of that birth, not even in old age, but in prime youth, by this mysterious catch of the crocodile pastime, Gajendra could see the Supreme Lord face to face, become a Vishnu Duta and go back home, back to Godhead. So isn't it great mercy from Agastya Muni's perspective? And from Agastya Muni's side, what would have taken many births for King Indradyumna probably was finished in less than one birth. Gajendra did not even go through that whole birth. In prime youth, he received the personal attention and the personal presence of Krishna's pastime, Krishna's presence there. So in this way, great souls, they are Janasya Krishnat Vimukhasya Daivat Adharma Shila Sudukhitasya Anugrahayeha Charanti Nunam Bhutani Bhavyani Janardhanasya. The 3rd canto, 5th chapter Bhagavatam describes that great souls in this world, Janasya Krishnat Vimukhasya Daivat, they are only interested in bringing souls back to the lotus feet of Krishna. Anugrahayeha Charanti Nunam. Out of great mercy, they move in this world, Bhutani Bhavyani Cha Janardhanasya, as big moving pots of the Supreme Lord's compassion. So in this situation, when we may think Agastya Muni has acted frivolously, or he has acted in passion or in a very erratic manner. But actually, we cannot see the vision, the transcendental purified vision of great souls. This is why Shukdev Goswami, before the curse, calls Agastya not just as a Muni, which means who's thoughtful and very silent and self-controlled, but Mahayasha, very famous, very well respected. And after the curse, where King Indradyumna is cursed to become Stabda Mati Saeva, Yatha Gaja Stabda Mati Saeva, in verse 10, may you become a dull-headed elephant. After that, Shukdev Goswami calls Agastya as Bhagavan. That King Indradyumna was trying his bit to make advancement, but Agastya Muni accelerated the process. Instead of taking 5 years of 10,000 rupees medicine every month, Agastya Muni came and accelerated this process by doing a surgery on the spiritual life of King Indradyumna. So at this point, this is what is happening. On Monday, for our continuing session, and there we will discuss how did King Indradyumna take this whole situation. King Indradyumna is facing a reversal. He is having his own desires, but Agastya Muni has toppled it. He has rubbed humiliation on the face of King Indradyumna, externally speaking. How did King Indradyumna respond to this? As we were mentioning in text 11 of the 4th chapter, Canto 8, Prabhupada writes a brilliant purport, like other purports. But in this purport, Prabhupada talks about 5 things that a devotee should learn from King Indradyumna. That we will see Monday night. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Patita Pavan Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo.